Every time you use your face to unlock your smartphone, accept Facebook's photo tagging suggestions, or sort through a Google Photos album by person, you're seeing facial recognition at work.
I thought it was cute when on my phone it was like, oh look, this is your daughter. We've put all the photos of your daughter together. Oh, that's nice. Thanks, phone. Also, your daughter's going to prison now. What? All over the world, we're seeing new policing powers granted and anti-protest laws put in place. In alliance with new facial recognition technologies, are we marching ever more quickly towards dystopia? And are we even allowed to march with all these new laws?
We were surprised to learn that nearly half of American adults are in facial recognition databases.
He likes it. He seems to think the whole thing's rather sexy. Are you aware that we're in facial recognition databases and recognize this face as the face of a sexy old silver fox?
In London and many other cities across the country, hundreds marched, exercising their right to protest, which they believe will be restricted under proposed police powers.
Last weekend across the UK, Kill the Bill protesters gathered to oppose the new police crime sentencing and courts legislation, which gives police greater powers to restrict protests. But on both sides of the Atlantic, hundreds of thousands of photos and videos of protesters are being recorded and uploaded online and could remain there indefinitely. New laws, new anti-protest laws, greater policing powers and facial recognition technology. It's interesting, isn't it, to watch appearing on the horizon the component pieces of a vision we have already seen relayed to us through sci-fi. And it's already present in places like China, where you have credit scores and social scores, and life's like a sort of a computer game where you're merely an organic blob tethered to tech, where your every move and motion can be recorded and restricted according to the whims of those reliable arbiters, tech giants and unaccountable governments.
The Georgetown Law School's study on facial recognition found 26 police departments use the technology and 16 states allow the FBI to tap into their systems.
Can we tap into your system? Go right ahead. Now, we already know how this works because Edward Snowden, who's coming up as a guest soon on Under the Skin, revealed to us that in spite of pledges and promises made by tech companies and data companies, phone networks, etc., there is collaboration between the state and big business and the police. Why? Because their interests align. It's not whether or not it's legal, it's whether or not they think they could get away with it. Now, think about your own morality. When you arrive at a place where you think, the reason that I behave myself and live well is not because I'm afraid of the consequences, but because I want to be a good person. I want to be a good person. Until you get there, speaking from personal experience, you're just thinking, will I get caught if I do that? That's a sort of a life tethered and imprisoned by your own needs, desires, fears, whatever. Now, that at a state level, that at a big tech level, it's like a demented giant. That's probably why the image of something like a Beowulf, like that big mad thing smashing through a village, or a Godzilla, or a King Kong or whatever, our desires unchecked could destroy civilization. Granting those kind of powers to giants in a sort of a corporate sense or in a legislative or bureaucratic sense, is giddyingly dangerous.
Photos are culled from social media images, driver's licenses, and government IDs. The report argues the biometric network primarily includes law-abiding Americans.
As long as you're a law-abiding American, you have nothing to fear from the good old biometric network. We can't start questioning the biometric network. It's our proudest tradition. All hail the biometric network. It sounds terrifying already. I don't want to be in a biometric network. You're going in that biometric network, and if you don't want to be in, it means you're probably a criminal.
Maryland officials say they limit access to the technology, and Scott, the FBI says the technology is crucial to catching terrorists and criminals.
We've got to catch terrorists and criminals, haven't we? We all hate them, terrorists and criminals. Who's terrorists and criminals? Whoever we say, according to the biometric network. And I thought during the pandemic, we didn't have to worry about terrorists anymore. They certainly seem to have dropped off the radar now that we've got a new gun to our heads to keep us obediently sat bolt upright in our cell homes, tapping away our information while we're scanned by our new friend, our biometric network.
The majority of Americans appear in a facial recognition database, potentially accessible by their local police department and federal government agencies like ICE or the FBI. It's not something you likely opted into, but as of now, there's no way to be sure exactly who has access to your likeness.
In a sense, it's an enhancement of the existing contract between the governed and the governing, i.e. the state nominally provides protection and we pay taxes. That's the idea, isn't it? But the fact is now, what happens, and this is an age-old question and one of the big philosophical questions, what happens when the thing that you have most reason to be afraid of is the thing that's supposed to be protecting you, the thing that you've charged with protecting you? That is the biggest thing to fear. I'm not saying there's not other threats in life, that we live in an entirely benevolent world without terror or competing ideologies or criminality. You know, every single one of us has the potential to create mayhem in our own lives. Therefore, power ought to be flattened, creating this idea of you live in a terrifying world and if you don't participate in these ways, you're fucked. What you do there is you continually outsource power, and if you outsource power continually enough, regularly enough, you'll find all the power is somewhere else and you don't have any.
Whether you're tagging photos or searching through a vast government database, it's the same technology at work. Clearview AI is a huge player in this space. Founded in 2017, Clearview has amassed a database of over 3 billion images.
In a way, what we have to deal with is our own laziness, right? Because laziness is what underwrites convenience. Oh, it's convenient. I don't have to type in number. Oh, I can't type in numbers in my phone. There, look at the old face. Thank you, Russell. I know exactly what you're doing and what you look like.
The Toronto Police Service has made a disturbing admission. Officers use secret facial recognition technology from Clearview AI to dig up sensitive personal information. They were ordered to stop using the controversial tool last week, but just last month, the police denied using it at all.
Stop using that. We weren't. Were you? Yes. Are you going to continue to? Mm-hmm.
The company's app can cross-reference a person's image against a database of billions of photographs scraped from social media and millions of other websites without consent.
Clearview, they're just scraping all of that data to reconfigure a digital cyber version of you and control exactly what you're doing. It's pretty easy, isn't it, to envisage that 1 minute you're attending a protest because you're against, I don't know, experiments on animals or new laws being introduced or gender or racial or civil liberty issue, and suddenly you're at a job interview and they go, oh, what's your attitude towards like animal rights? Oh, you know, yeah, I like animals. Yeah, damn right you like animals. We see you strutting your stuff, marching, holding a placard. That's not the kind of person we want working at Huntington Life Sciences.
The facial recognition software attempts to match people's faces with billions of images scraped off social media websites.
They should have put a bit more work into choosing a verb for the way they get it. We simply scrape away your civil rights and your privacy. We scrape it all into the fuck you bucket. Then we give it a rattle around with a we don't give a shit about your rights wrists. And then it's straight into a life of tyranny for you.
Clearview says more than 600 law enforcement agencies across the country use this software in a method known as scraping.
They're pleased with scraping, aren't they? They keep really pushing that. Scraping is unpleasant because of the resistance of the thing that's being scraped, isn't it? Oh, scrape me arm. You have to scrape your tongue. I don't like scraping.
And what is the fear if it reaches the general population and anyone's faces in this database?
It's that it could be misused.
That's right. It could be misused. Oh yeah, they could misuse that. Let's have a little think using our own little databases. Let's scrape the past. Scrape, scrape, scrape. Edward Snowden. Scrape, scrape, scrape. History always. Powerful people exploiting people without power. Yeah, no, I don't think we should do that. Oi, you're not allowed to scrape. Give me that scraper.
At police departments in some cities, facial recognition software is now integrated into the body-worn cameras that have been in widespread use for years.
Body cameras were intended to be tools of accountability. To turn them into surveillance cameras now, targeted at the very communities they were intended to protect.
That's brilliant. It was meant to be accountability, and now it becomes surveillance. How fantastic. And who controls that data? Who controls that information? So the accountability component is already dubious. I suppose, look, let's face it, what we're seeing, whether it's with the potential COVID passports, terrifying new abilities to observe people, new laws being passed, is a kind of global system of impediments to personal freedom sold as necessity from one of many angles.
The concern here, I think, from the police is we don't want to show our hand to criminals. The idea is, well, if we have to be more transparent about what technology we use, then people will adapt their behavior.
We'd love to be transparent, but those bloody criminals, they're always trying to get up to some criminal thing. But luckily, we're recording all of you and scraping all the necessary data to create a lovely, cozy little biometric network. You're all snug in your little network, all safe and cozy, just keep nice and still, tightly bound up, never going anywhere. And if you move your eyes, that will be registered and recorded. I can see that, in a sense, humanity is becoming like a carnal adjunct to a cyber world. Like, if a point a policeman standing there recording you and some database is going, like, what are you doing? Like, what are either of you doing? The level where a police person is meant to be one human, you're another human. Forget the idea that, you know, the police are funded by your money. Like, forget all that kind of crap, that there's meant to be a contract between you. Like, you're feeling when you, whoever you are and wherever you're from, when you see a member of a police force, you should be, all right, how's it going? Listen, I'm thinking about it. Like, it should be like a member of your community. Like, that's gone. Now it's an agent of power. Like, and these are human beings. I've got no beef with individual people working for the police force. I've had loads of experiences, often when being arrested, where I thought, like, these are just human beings the same as me. And this must abide. Our humanity must flourish. Whether you believe in God or not, you believe in certain values and rights. It's difficult to think of how those rights and values are underwritten without some sort of faith in a divine entity or some sort of sublime universalism. But in any event, these values have to be promoted beyond secondary values such as convenience, the negation of fear, which are being mobilized to completely remove your freedom, so that you're just like some sort of little Subutio pipsqueak in the world getting flicked around by powerful interests.
It's dangerous when it works and when it doesn't. But even if the technology worked 100% of the time, it would be extremely dangerous, because at its logical conclusion, what it really does is eliminate privacy and anonymity in public space, which is something that no free society should ever tolerate.
Yeah, that's it. It becomes like, oh, if you've not done nothing wrong, you've got nothing to be afraid of. No, what about privacy? Like, we should be able to freely associate, not be minor players, tips of data icebergs that we're carrying around all the time. The assumption that we begin from a position of social mistrust and antipathy, that's what's being asserted here, that your first thought on seeing a person, our opponent, enemy. It's so curious the way that division is again being promoted at a time when unity is actually possible on an international and even global level, where alliances suddenly could be formed by people from all manner of backgrounds. This is finally possible thanks to technology. Well, suddenly we find ourselves more divided than ever. I identify with this group or this class. There's no question individual groups have had individual struggles, but there's similarly no question that the challenges met by any diverse member of a community or population will be better met. The challenges will be better met and surmounted if collectivism is being achieved, if we can overlook our differences and come together and recognize that our interests are unified against a common enemy. And that enemy is a mindset represented by systems of power, not even the individuals within them. Boris Johnson will be blown away on the breeze of history. Biden too will be gone, as all their predecessors are. But what has been maintained throughout the legislations of these men and the men, mostly men, that preceded them, is an idea. And that idea is, you live in fear, we tell you what to do. We have the power, you start on the back foot, negotiating from a position of weakness. These systems must end. The only way these systems will end is through collectivism and an alliance among all of us, which will require that we overlook our superficial differences. But let me tell you, They are examining our superficial differences and using them to corral us into endless separation, tyranny, and impotence.
Police cameras in an East London street. Everyone gets scanned. This man didn't want to be caught by the police cameras, so he covered his face. Police stopped him. They photographed him anyway. The police said this was disorderly behaviour, so they gave him a fine.
Wear a mask, wear a mask, wear a mask. Wait, don't wear a mask, don't wear a mask, don't wear a mask. Wait, wear a mask. Oh, fucking hell. Just have to become a one-man puppet show to get through the fucking day.
The chap told me down the road, he said he got facial recognition. So I walked past like that. It's a cold day as well.
He's old school. It's a cold day. Got to keep the old snout. Got to keep the ooter warm, and I chill in the air.
I said, I don't want my face shown on anything. If I want to cover my face, I'll cover my face. It's not for them to tell me not to cover my face. I've got a now £90 fine. There you go. Look at that. Thanks, lads. £90. Well done.
Thanks for nosing me day up with a 90 quid fine, you fucking mug. The voice of reason, the British Cockney. It takes sometimes the working man of London to tell you the truth about a situation. You can't always leverage that against us. If you ain't got nothing to hide, you've got nothing to fear. That has been proven to be untrue. It don't matter whether or not you're something to hide or something to fear. You don't have any agency. You don't get to decide what those taxonomies are. Something to fear. What? Because one minute a law-abiding citizen is this, the next minute a law-abiding citizen is that. As the laws are changing, so shouldn't your attitudes change? The policing powers are changing, shouldn't your attitude change? Facial recognition technology is changing, shouldn't your attitude change? Personal sovereignty will be everything now. Personal sovereignty and collective unity.
There is no legal basis for the police to be using facial recognition. There are no legal limitations on how they can use it. We don't know who's on the watch lists, and the police are kind of making up the rules as they go along.
I like Silky Carlo, Big Brother watch, and I like seeing the words watch Big Brother all in a sentence because it just reminds me of being younger.
Never before have members of the public been treated like walking ID cards subjected to an ongoing police lineup, that our identities have to be biometrically checked to make sure we're not criminals. That's a complete inversion of the traditional presumption of innocence that is so at the heart of British civil liberties.
We're going to assume you're guilty. Go to prison, serve 20 years. We'll talk about whether or not that was a mistake at the end of it. Like the good old days when being Irish was enough to put you in prison. Or perhaps the colour of your skin. Can we do that? But for anyone we like now?
And that's why I think this is none less than an assault on our rights.
If we can learn anything from that, is that state and corporate power, in alliance with technology, is being used to create a terrifying hydra, a serpent of many faces, if you will, that are closing in on you fast. Technology itself ain't bad. This is on a technological platform which is extremely, extremely, extremely powerful. No one's confused about that. But this is a point in history where we're going to need to assert our personal authority, collectivise wherever we're from and whatever our previous interests and alliance have been, in order to oppose these measures, these increasingly draconian measures. If you like this, why don't you like it? It gives me real pleasure to see them little flipped up thumbs going up. Subscribe to this channel. Don't turn on your notification bell. You're under enough pressure. Focus on masking yourself when you're passing a camera. Comment below. We'll answer your questions. And every so often we do a comment video so that we can remain in dialogue together. Go to russellbrand.com. Join that mailing list if ever a time came where technology turned against us. Impossible to imagine, isn't it though? Thank you.